Hi, I'm here in London with SDP London Mayoral candidate Amy Gallagher. And we're in the final stretch of our campaign, about a week to go. Now, Amy, it's wonderful. I think what you've done is fantastic. You've stepped up and you've given a lot of people a chance to vote for something they believe in, which is great. Now, you're really well known for all the stand up to woke and the cultural stuff and your policy of neutrality, which a lot of people find really appealing. But I'm a bit of a housing nerd, and I think the proposals that you've worked up for housing, you've got three things, which is to raise the $3 billion to fund it, to get this register of underused land, and then the third part, which is really important, isn't it? Which would be your job as mayor, which is to convene people and get all the best people together. Do you think that's been neglected?
Yeah, I don't think Sadiq Khan. I think Sadiq Khan has had a terrible track record on housing. As you say, he's got the powers to bring in some of the best experts in the field, and he's not doing that at all. It looks like all of his promises on building more houses, he's not going to meet those promises or those goals. And it's such a shame. I think I'm really proud of our manifesto that we've put for London. And probably of all the areas, housing was the one that I knew the least about, and I've learned so much. So there's some amazing people in the SDP who know a lot about housing, including yourself and others. And I was quite struck by how little Sadiq Khan has done and how important an issue it is. And it's an issue that doesn't always get headlines. But it is such an important issue, and it's affecting so many people. So, yeah. And
it is a lost opportunity because it is partly to do with his personality. He's a very divisive figure, and often doesn't work. He isn't prepared to work with other people. And your proposals to have this big register of unused land, idle land, there's so much there, particularly in the outer boroughs. We could do more intensification of land. And a point you've made, which is who isn't going to pick up the phone to the mayor?
Yeah, exactly. He's got the power to talk to anyone and everyone in the field. That's what I'd want to do. I'd want to have a kind of deputy mayor for housing and just try and get as many experts in the field as possible to try to help solve this problem. And I think something that's come up a lot, something that's part of our manifesto, is we want to reignite Roger Scruton's Building Better, Building Beautiful commission. Because we don't just want to build more houses, but we want to think about how they're built and how they look. And we want to make sure that London looks more beautiful than it does, because we feel like there's a real lack of thought going into housing and building that a lot of people are saying to me, things just look ugly at the moment.
It do, but I think it's the strength of the SDP team underneath. We are a small party, but one of our advisors that's helped both of us is Malyn, who's got great experience. He's one of our candidates for the GLA, and he's got a lot of experience, and he happens to be in Holland now, but actually he takes a lot of his ideas from the Dutch planning system, and you look at the quality of what they build there, there's no excuse. We can do it. I would say in politics you could do it if you want to do it. And the problem is we have a lack of desire. Anyway, do you think, the housing, I hope a lot of people will read it, and for young people, is it the top issue, do you think, housing in London?
Housing is a big issue, I think housing and crime. A lot of people are worried about mass immigration. That comes up quite a bit. People feeling that London is full. But lots of issues come up. Homelessness comes up. And people just feeling culturally that we're divided and there's no kind of community anymore in London. So
you've said during the campaign, and you've spoken on this really brilliantly, that although the question of immigration isn't a mayoral competence, the mayor does. You have the pulpit. If the London mayor raised this issue, said, look, basically London's crammed full. You've got beds in sheds. You've got people bunking up, and a lot of overcrowding. If the mayor of London raised the issue, it would help it nationally, wouldn't it?
It would help. Yeah, it would help. Like London's more affected by mass immigration than any other city. And we have a mayor currently that just doesn't want to acknowledge that. No. And it's really important for Westminster to feel that pressure that they need to do something, and for us to highlight the issues that we're facing. Either they need to really help if helping the area or lower immigration. But it's totally untenable to have more and more people coming in and to not be building more houses. So
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and London takes the brunt.
Yeah.
It's where a lot of people arrive, and that's where links are. But we just can't go on like this. I always say it is a bit of political rhetoric, but it actually works. We can't go on like this. And but it'll stay like this unless we work to change it. So let's talk about your sort of key thing, which is neutrality. It comes down to neutrality because what we've got is DEI policies which are very divisive and not helpful at all. And then you've got a mayor that uses his power and his influence over TfL to constantly bombard us with woke messaging and issues of commands and so on. And most Londoners don't want that, do they? I mean, people want to just get to work without being lectured to.
Exactly, that's right. I mean, firstly, it's a waste of money, and then on top of that, it annoys people and it divides people.
Yeah.
And I think people feel increasingly that there's less spaces where you're not having a message put onto you, where everybody can come together.
Yeah.
And we don't know each other's politics, and we don't want to. We just want to celebrate,
Just get to work.
Yeah, or we just get to work. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. We just want to get to work, or we want to celebrate New Year's, or we want to celebrate certain parts of the year where we forget about politics, but it's becoming harder and harder to do that with Sadiq Khan. Yeah. He's often putting out stuff on Twitter and using his profile to raise issues around identity, and I don't think that's what the mayor should be doing. The mayor should be focusing on policing and transport and, as you said, making it neutral so that everybody... I mean, he always goes on about how inclusive the city is, but I think he excludes lots of people by putting out divisive messages.
It certainly alienates, doesn't it? I mean, it's people, as you say, we're not at school. We don't be lectured to constantly. We just want to get to work.
And it feels very unprofessional. If you're a leader, I think you should be thinking very carefully about what it is that you say and how you can, make sure that everybody can get along. And when you're putting out quite divisive statements in the way that he does, I don't think that's helpful at all. So I think we need to just get back to, neutrality, especially within policing. I mean, that's been a big issue, I think, in the last 6 months, more than ever, that the people really feel that the police are taking certain sides, that they're not impartial, that they're treating some groups more favourably than others. And Sadiq Khan should be leading the way in clamping down on that, saying, no, we need a professional and a fair police force. But he doesn't seem to be doing that.
And they do, don't they? I mean, we're speaking on a Saturday. It's the Saturday before the election, and there'll be protests to do with issues in the Middle East and counter protests. And we all noticed that on St George's Day there was some hanging bow like England football supporters there, but the police were quite heavy-handed with them, weren't they? So I mean, I haven't really seen that level of assertiveness to other.
No. Police sort of preemptively turned up kind of in riot gear. There was horse charging into people, seemingly for no reason. There didn't seem to be any kind of extremist behaviour, not overtly.
It's quite a small group as well.
Yeah, quite a small group. So it didn't seem why such a big police presence was even warranted. But as you say, I think people don't mind if they see that that's happening across the board. They could feel fair. I think it's the unfairness that really bothers people when they see other groups that are much larger, like the pro-Palestinian marches, where we're seeing quite extreme things being said, and we're seeing people being attacked. People waving Israeli flags are being attacked, and the police just sort of shrug and say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. So it feels like you've got a kind of lots of different police forces. They don't seem to... We saw this. I mean, this has been going on all the time. It's just not just now. So we saw it during the BLM protests. Yep. BLM protesters were allowed with license to break lockdown rules. Yeah.
They just weren't enforced, and then anti-lockdowners, a little bit of a different attitude. Yeah. So what the curious thing, Amy, is that the police and the authorities think we don't notice. We certainly everyone could see it. It's clear as air.
I know, it's crazy. And we want to roll back on that. So I'd really want to push back on all the kind of, as you say, domestic to inclusion stuff. But I'd want to bring in training around neutrality so that the police know that that's what's to be expected of them, and they need to think very carefully about how they act publicly. That they shouldn't be seen to be promoting any causes. I think that's really important. So
we haven't actually developed a sort of SDP party line on this, but I know a lot of SDP members and prominent members have different views on this. My view is quite different to some other people's. But what's your view on the protests associated with Palestine every single Saturday or regularly on Saturdays, which disrupts Londoners' lives and visitors' lives and closes parts of the city off? I mean, we are strongly in favour of free speech. We don't. This idea of hate speech, policing of people's language, constantly we're against that. So we're in favour of protesting, but I'm not sure you need to protest every single weekend and disrupt the normal functioning of the city every weekend. And if I was the boss, I'm not sure I'd give license for that. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you a little bit. I think obviously, of course, I believe in, people's rights to protest or free speech. But I think there's something when it's such a large group and it takes on a different kind of meaning. That's what I'm concerned about. Then it feels more than just a protest. It feels like an assertion of power or intimidation. And it's very difficult to know where the line is. So it's something I'm thinking about a lot, and I'm not entirely sure myself.
But it's every week. I mean,
it's every week.
I made the point, on social media. You're perfectly entitled to make it. There is a political point to be made, and that's absolutely fine. That defend people's right to do that. But do you have to do it every weekend if it stops other people going to around their business?
Yeah, and even on days like Armistice Day, and I think it does feel like that. It's drowning out other causes, and it's changing the whole atmosphere of London. That people at the weekend now have to think: is there going to be a protest? And it changes how it changes the vibe of London, and it changes the culture a little bit. So. I think the other point that a lot of people make is that you can make a political point in lots of ways. Certainly, protesting the streets is one way. But a lot of people have made the point that is it really about protesting, or is it about claiming public spaces, asserting power, and being seen to assert power, and the authorities sort of backing off of it? And I don't know. I mean, certainly there's a case for that. Perhaps that's right. One thing that is not part of your campaign, but certainly part of your personality and who you are, is your Christianity. And I'm a churchgoer, but I'm not actually a believer. But then people think that's a little bit odd, but it's a long story. But you put on your address to Londoners, the booklet, that you are a Christian. How does that feed into the whole campaign? Do you think it's an important part of it, or it's just part of you and people should know? I think it's just part of who I am. But I also think that it's why I believe strongly in equality, and it's why it's kind of what makes me so concerned about the ideas of diversity, equity, inclusion. That they're often treating people unfairly and judging people by their skin colour or some other aspect of their identity, whereas as a Christian, I do feel strongly that everybody is equal in the eyes of God, and that's how I approach everybody. So I think
So it feeds into it?
Yeah, it does feed into it, definitely. And I think that perspective, that Christian perspective, is often forgotten. I think people don't realise. So people often think, why do you feel so strongly? Why are you so against these ideas? And I think if you don't understand, if you have a kind of Christian perspective, you just can't, the two can't go together. Or for me, they can't.
Yeah.
So I do feel like I'm being told to kind of think differently or let go of kind of my faith, really.
I think another thing that I observe about you, which is very impressive, which is that I think that also underpins your courage.
So
a lot of people, I mean, I'm saying, honestly, it does, because you said very powerfully and written about it and been interviewed about it, which is that it is incumbent. It's what we're trying to do in the SDP, really, which is that the people have to stand up.
Yeah.
And there are very few people standing up, but you are one of them. And if you don't, then no one stands up. And it's funny. I was reading that this is maybe a really bizarre comparison, but it's someone said that Amy, we were done at the Tower Stop and taking him on. These sort of the Rosa Parks of today, which I thought was interesting, and it's not an unreasonable parallel, because you've got to have courage.
Yeah, I think when I kind of started speaking up about these issues, a lot of people said to me, "Are you worried about what people think?" But I think if you believe in God, you're more concerned about how you're judged by a higher power than by other people. So it puts things into perspective a bit. Yeah. So that's what does give you that courage. And I think all along the way, like every time I've needed something, it's always, I feel like it's come in my direction. Everything I've needed has sort of come in my direction. So I do think, if you can be courageous, you have to just trust that it will work out. That's all you can do. So yeah.
Well, it's funny. I've said this to many people before that I'm not a believer, but actually for the party, pretty much every time we've really needed something, something's come along. It's weird, perhaps we've been blessed.
That's what I've found. Yeah.
But listen, it's lovely to speak to you, and I'm full of admiration for what you're doing. We'll cross our fingers for the vote, but we are a small party. We'll see how we go. I'm very confident the vote will go up, and I'd like to thank you for everything you've done.
Oh, thank you, William. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.